Good morning, everybody. Today, we are ready for some serious fun. And I'll tell you what, I got a great guest here. We've been having a nice little chit chat ahead of time. We've got Bear Givhan, and I guarantee you, I probably butchered up his name several times, but he is the president and CEO of Earthview Corporation, and it's got ESG, it's got continuous. And my big thing from everybody knows is there is no ESG without accountability, and we're here to talk about accountability. Welcome, Bear. I could get Bear right, so welcome.
Hey, Stu, thank you so much for having me on here.
And you're calling in from Denver, Colorado.
The one and only.
And you just had a great call. We'll leave the big company name out of this, but you're dealing with the big boys. This is pretty darn cool.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal, I must say. When we started this company back in late 2019 to getting to this point, going through the pandemic and do we have a market for emissions monitoring? Does anyone care? And it turns out that we do, and people do really care. And it's really important to future energy operations.
And that big company we know as folks, because we've produced some things for them as well too. So till the deal's done, you can't mention it, but when the deal's done, you're coming back on to talk about it.
You'll be the first to know, Stu, definitely.
Oh, a second, actually.
Second, yes. I guess I'll know first.
All right. Okay, so let's get into Earthview and what it is, and then we'll get into some of the other things. So, Bear, how did you get founded in this, and what is Earthview?
Sure. So, I'll just what is Earthview? It's a great question, and it's simple, right? I mean, Earthview was founded with the goal of helping the United States and really the world energy industry produce the cleanest hydrocarbons possible. I mean, that's it. And, and provide the data that proves that, right? Because, it's one thing to say that you produce the cleanest hydrocarbons, it's another thing to have the data that proves it and also shows improvement over time. So that was really why we're here. We're here to help reduce methane emissions. And we want to provide the lowest cost
to produce methane emissions.
Reduce.
Okay. I'm sorry. I heard that. And I'm like, that's not what I thought this conversation. Reduce.
Well, hey, we can produce more methane by catching your leaks quicker. So that way it's staying in your pipes and not going to the atmosphere. So in a way, sure, we could help you produce more methane.
Oh, I like that. You're not running for office anytime soon, are you?
No.
Good. We can continue this conversation.
I have a hard enough time running a 12-person company. I don't know how I could manage a state or so no, Stu, to answer your question, politics is far from my
well, you seem ambition. Trustworthy. That as soon as you say you're going to run for politics, I don't like any of them. So let's leave politics out of this because we all get airsick. And you're a pilot too.
I am. Yep.
And that's pretty darn cool. Wyoming and everything else. Where were you in Wyoming? What were you doing up there?
Sure. So, I've had a very interesting kind of aviation career, and it's actually kind of how I got into methane monitoring in the first place. So I was flying for, one of the leading airborne research companies in the world at the time, kind of doing some really early stage, kind of quantification of landfills, looking at regional emissions from oil and gas basins. So, if I've flown about every oil and gas basin from Dead Horse, Alaska, all the way down to the Mexico, off the coast, off the Campeche coast there in the Gulf of Mexico.
How old are you?
I just turned 30 in August. Well, I might be 31, I guess.
That is not fair, dude. That's so cool. You got so many great experiences. Keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, the problem is you get me started talking about flying, we'll only talk about flying. So it's, but it really helped me see the problem, right? Because and realize that, hey, flying an airplane at 200 miles an hour is probably not the best way to try to quantify a individual well pad.
Right.
Then as soon as I, fly off in my plane, and never to return to that site till who knows how long, a leak could have just started. So you got to have the continuous and time element to really tackle this problem, which is really where Earthview fits in.
Right. See, back in college, I actually worked for Transoak Pipeline as a roustabout or hand in the pipeline space. And what we did is walk the pipelines. Okay. That's not technology at all. You pay a college kid to go walk pipelines. Holy smokes, that's awful.
Yeah. And, it's hard to find those leaks, even if you're looking at every inch of that pipe all the time, which I'm sure Stu, as you as I know, that probably didn't quite happen that way.
No, it was awful. I even got chased by bulls and pigs and everything else. But I would rather be in the airplane. You were so cool at it. How did that airplane get you to Earthview?
So it really just, it kind of exposed me to the problem is really kind of what happened. And then, I ended up leaving that job for unrelated reasons. And then about a year later, we got Earthview going.
Nice.
So I was introduced to our chief scientist, Dr. Jim Mislonic, who is a renowned climate scientist and has done a ton of work up in, the Arctic and the Antarctic, really focused on understanding methane emissions as they relate to permafrost.
Nice.
So he had designed his instrument as a low-cost way to get really good spatial data. So nice. He wanted to put his on a UAV and fly it around. So that problem kind of applies to oil and gas too. So it's and we've since taken that, spaghetti wire, prototype that was sitting on Jim's dining room table into an actual, product that we can put out in the field and that, we'll monitor continuously. So that's been
I'll tell you, that is absolutely an American dream, and it's patented, right?
It is. We have 3 filed patents with over 60 inventions in it. So
no way. Yeah, see, I can read, but not that much. That's pretty darn cool, dude. That's fabulous. Now, El Guapo, out of the 3 amigos, would say, is he infamous or infamous?
I would say the better one.
Whichever one's better. That is cool that you've taken a product from somebody's front room and it's now able to find emissions and leaks and document. So pipeline companies, midstream companies, this is very important.
Especially and for midstream companies too, it's not only important for them to monitor their own assets as the gas moves down the transmission there, but it's important for them to understand where upstream that gas is coming from and kind of what the emissions factors are there, because if you have an operator that's not monitoring, or they're not, they have a high methane intensity, that could potentially bring down the midstream companies because they're still transporting that gas. So it's I'm sorry, Stu, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. When you're visiting with the big boys, ESG, they're looking for their investors. They're now returning money back to their investors. And everybody throws the ESG around and they can't spell it half the time. And when you sit back and kind of go, you can get tagged as an upstream by a lousy midstream. If they have bad emissions, you can get associated with them.
You can.
So that's what you're describing as being able to play in both fields, upstream, downstream, and midstream, correct?
Exactly.
Yep. So now certified gas is something that we really have to have because the investors, what's happened just recently is the fact that hypocrisy has really come full circle with like BlackRock and all these other folks that were doing the renewable only. Now that profit is in oil and gas, if they have the term certified gas, that is meaning that they can put ESG funds into that area. Is that a correct statement?
That sounds correct to me. And I think that, certified gas it's definitely a way to differentiate between who is effectively controlling their emissions and who isn't. I think
that's exactly how they're using it in order to do that. So certify your ability to to certify gas is critical.
It is. And Earthview's monitoring technology plays right into those certifications. So, for instance, MIQ, like we're partners with them to, so essentially Earthview can be used as a piece of that monitoring kind of mosaic is actually was just described to me in my last call, which is actually a great way to put it. Multiple technologies, that are good at different things.
Real-time monitoring.
Real time, yep.
Real time. So you feed back into a corporate data center.
We do. So
and you got the cool lights that go red. Red means bad, I'm assuming.
Red means bad. Green means good. Yellow means it's just something's going on.
Okay, cool. Now tell us, is it a device that just sits on the pipe? What happens with that device?
Yeah, so typically we, if we're thinking about just kind of your normal upstream production facility, and I'll just do, so we focus primarily on the upstream sector and we're getting into midstream.
Okay.
But yeah, it sits out on the fence line of these well pads, out of the way.
Right.
And we need a little distance from the sources anyway to get an effective quantification. So it kind of works out. But yeah, we basically go out there, we install them. We don't have to T-post anything into the ground. There's no digging. We have a little platform. So it just sits there. We plug it in, starts transmitting data to the cloud. And that goes to our dashboard. And
so in an EMP environment, you have the rig come out, you start drilling, you get everything going. Do you have a solution where you drop them in while it's drilling, and then after they build the tank batteries, it sits near the tank batteries?
So that's actually a really interesting question. So we do marketing.
I'm proud of myself on that one, then, Bear.
So it's the answer to that is we don't have anything that does that quite yet, but we just haven't had anyone ask us to do it. So we do all the pre and early production monitoring here in the state of Colorado as required by the new state regulations.
Yes, Senate Bill 181 and then beyond.
Exactly. And the requirement there is that 10 days before anything shows up to the pad, our monitors need to be in place and measuring. And we're actually targeting VOC as opposed to methane. And we use a slightly different sensor. So we'll monitor throughout the drilling, completions, flow back, kind of the whole stages of drilling the well. And then we'll monitor 6 months into early production.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, that really does clean that up for me, because EMP companies are getting hammered by their investors, and they really need to be able to go, hey, look, and like Liberty Frac, their management is fantastic. They're using their electric team, their electric frac fleet. I got to say that very slowly because I can't talk.
E-frac.
E-frac. Thank you. Boy, I mess people's names up in E-frac. But when you talk about going to a main data room, that is so critical for real time. You can deploy a fix immediately.
Mm-hmm. And that's, Stu, you really just hit the nail. That's kind of the other, if you kind of think about our solution in two, we have our sensor that goes out in the field that detects methane. Right. We have the infrastructure to get that data back to the client, and we have the ability to quantify the emissions, to locate the emissions. Now the next side of that coin is, how do we utilize that data to reduce emissions? Right. And with sensors like ours, right, we see most gas, right? We'll see most emissions, but most of those emissions aren't actionable. Right. They might be intermittent events, a Nardo valve or something releasing some pressure. It's not, it's normal operations. Right. Right. So the challenge, and I think a lot of companies similar to Earthview have gone through it, is how do you effectively alert the operators so they're not sending their folks out and not finding a leak, because then that erodes trust in our technology. So that's been a big, something that we've figured out at this point. But it's been a lot of working with our customers and understanding how they respond to these alerts. Right.
I got a little bit distracted with your map. What is your target market? You got the world, you got Australia sitting back there, and you got where do y'all work out of?
So we're still right now, we're all in the lower 48.
Nice. That is fabulous. So if any of both of my listeners, let me know, say, hey, how do we get your services or anything? You do the lower 48.
We got the lower 48 covered.
Okay, great. And up in the Marcellus, Balkan, and if you're up over there, the Powder River, DJ, got all those covered.
We don't have the Bakken yet.
Okay, cool.
It's on our list. I'm sure we'll get out there, probably in like January or something.
Well, there's a fur piece out there, as they say up there, so there's not much takeaway in a lot of that area. You also have on your documents the competitive landscape because of the Clean Air Act that was put out a few years ago. You have a few of those kind of things. What is your team seeing from the competitive landscape that differentiates you from them?
Yeah, so like I said, so it's kind of a mosaic of how to attack methane emissions. So,
right,
kind of where Earthview differentiates itself is, in our design of our instrument.
Okay.
Right. I mean, we've had some really strong results at METEC, which is the Methane Emissions Technology Evaluation Center in Fort Collins.
Oh, nice.
So they do a bunch of controlled releases, and we have some really strong results there. So, right. We really focus. And, I don't focus so much on kind of what our competitors do. I mean, of course I do, but I really focus on how we're building the best product that fits what our customers need. Nice. And ultimately, that's how we differentiate ourselves is listening to the customer, understanding what they need, how this fits into their ESG goals,
right, and
then making sure that our solution will work for them. Right. And that they'll be good customers, right? I mean, that's kind of how we approach that, is make sure it's a good fit. Right. And then, our technology works really well. At the end of the day, right, we can locate and quantify leaks, which is tough.
Bragging is a sin. Stating a fact is a great thing.
And I would not have stated that fact until we had that third-party validation of our system. Now it's just, nice. Like you said, it's like, I got some numbers to stand on now, which is great.
Isn't that great? Yeah. And when you sit back, my company has a product that we help get this year. Several of the major operators, their drilling permits, because we awesome. Go out and we pull the data for the disproportionately impacted communities. We get all that data in there on the front end for that. And so we understand what it takes to get those dang permits. It's not easy. And so when you get a thank you note from some of your folks saying, hey, you're a very big reason why we got a permit, that's kind of cool.
It is.
And so understanding those rules. Now, there's a little bit of a lead in on that, and that is the regulations that are coming out of California, Colorado. The Biden administration picked up for the infrastructure bill. And so when you take a look at that, now natural gas was snuck in there as a renewable kind of thing. The EU picked it up as natural gas. This is so important because everything that was started in Colorado is going across the US in regulations. So legislation through regulations is here. And your vision is very critical for getting this solved. I just think it's pretty, I'm over here selling you on your own product. That's pretty sad.
It's gotta be a good thing, right?
I think it's a tremendous opportunity for you. Are you seeing other markets for you rather than just midstream, upstream, downstream? Are you seeing like biofuel areas? What are you seeing around the horizon for new markets for you guys?
Yeah, so we actually just a week ago, we deployed at our first landfill. So that's a big potential market for us.
Nice.
Filters.
Very nice.
Yeah,
so I actually had two good questions, Bear. I've had two good questions today.
Yeah, and now you're killing it. I love these questions.
So yeah, that is fabulous.
Yeah, and we'll be doing another landfill here soon. And, landfills are starting to kind of face the similar ESG kind of,
Right.
I mean, because, as flying that research aircraft, right, I didn't get exposed to just oil and gas emissions. It was the entire, landfills, feedlots. I mean, feedlots are the worst by far. So that's a battle. I'm not, that's a problem I don't know how to solve quite yet with our technology, feedlots.
Right. Demand destruction's about to solve that with inflation.
Yeah. Yes.
So coal mines would actually be a target for you guys.
I think so. Yeah. So I look for the reason I love oil and gas is a market for Earthview, because when typically there's not supposed to be, leaks of gas going on. So when our sensor goes off, there's a way we can fix that. Now with landfills and coal mines and feedlots, we're going to see methane, but there's not much we can do. Now we can monitor, and kind of what the company we're working for wants us to do is just essentially get baseline emissions numbers, so they can then try some things that might improve the gas gathering at the landfill.
Yeah, you can't fix it if you don't know about it.
Exactly. So I'm starting to really kind of get into more of these markets and learning more about kind of landfills and kind of what their problems are, what their customers are facing. And then, Stu, another cool product we do is we also work with the Department of Energy doing plugged and abandoned well monitoring. Oh. So we built this really cool contraption that will go over the top of these wells that will measure the leak rate coming from them. And so we got 5 of those units out with a lab up in the Northeast area. And yeah, they're measuring plugged and abandoned wells right now to help better inform states of, how much of these wells leaking, how can you monitor them.
That's huge.
Really, it's awesome. And that product's working really, again, not me bragging, this is just straight numbers. We're right on the money as far as getting the leak rates correct. So
there is a difference between bragging and fact.
Exactly.
So,
and I do always, for any clients out there, right, with Earthview, you're going to get the full pull on, where are our sensors good, where are they bad, where's our, where kind of the pain points for us. Like, it's always going to be transparent, because we got nothing to hide here. And I think to effectively monitor our ESG performance, you have to have transparent vendors.
Oh, absolutely. And without accountability, there is no ESG.
Nope.
How is your business model set up? Do you rent your equipment and have a service contract? Because that's the way a lot of oil field companies have those kind of things. So you rent your monitors per contract. Sometimes that helps with CapEx versus OpEx versus.
No. And so, yeah, so we do not require an upfront purchase, right? Because our monitors are constantly evolving. I mean, we're
cool.
We're improving them. So we don't want our customers to buy our monitors right now, because they'll be 10 times better a year from now. So we want them to be able to take advantage of our continuous improvement. And that's why we go with essentially a monthly. So we really think of Earthview as a software play with a hardware enablement, right? We had to build our hardware to collect.
Nice. I'm going to use that because that's a great way to say it. I think that is fabulous. It is
I did not come up with that. Much wiser people did.
Okay, not me. But after this podcast, I'm going to claim it. So
perfect. Hey, that's no problem.
I am being, that's how I'm so smart, is I publish it, as somebody else, and then I claim it. I think the rule is you can 3 times you talk about something, then you can claim it as your own. So
okay, well, sweet. I can't even remember what it was, so all good.
Oh, you bet. So that is a cool methodology and an ROI for business folks, because if you take the majors now, if you even take a minor, let's take a privately held EMP, that's pretty darn cool because they don't have to come up with a cash flow.
Exactly.
Is that what I heard?
Exactly. And we've made such great progress on our hardware And we've achieved some things kind of in the
Right.
hardware design, that I won't get too much into, but we've essentially made it to where our hardware, no one will be able to compete with our hardware cost because we've
Nice.
got it so buttoned up, and we did the hard work of designing all of our hardware from the ground up. I mean,
Nice.
every board in our box is built and designed by Earthview.
Nice.
So we have a ton of flexibility for how we modify the product. Like,
Right.
if a better methane sensor comes out that's kind of in our price tier,
Right.
like, we'll throw it in our box. We're really flexible, and we want to, because think about 8 years from now, this is going to be a totally different ball game, totally
Right.
different. And so technology, and I hear a lot of folks kind of on the more expensive side talking about how they're going to sell their tech, and they're looking at to do it. It's way more expensive technology, but they're looking at it from like a 10-year time span.
Right.
The way I see it is you got to be flexible in your product, because 10 years from now,
You got to be
knows?
nimble when
Mhm.
you're looking at this kind of a thing. So if you're not nimble, you're going to just flat miss the boat on some of these things.
You are.
So as we take a look at what's coming around the corner, let me go back to the big boys here. So as a big boy, they're going to have their own monitoring. They have their folks with their data center there, and they have all these things. Do you have APIs into your software to feed up into these? And
We do.
I'm assuming the answer is yes. I'm hoping I tee you up for a good answer.
Absolutely. Yes. So, I mean, that's a huge part of our system is being able to get the data to where it's more useful for our customers. And that varies with each customer, right?
That's right.
Smaller EMPs want us to do it. We're fine
Right.
to do it. We'll manage it. And we've
Yep.
got some really cool software coming down the line to kind of help manage that kind of by the,
Right.
we're looking to release that by the end of the summer, end of the year timeframe.
Right.
But yes, with the larger companies being able to feed into their systems really multiplies the value of our data, because
Right.
not only now can they see, okay, well, we got some pretty high methane concentration hits over these 5 minutes.
Right.
What happened on this pad that other information can tell us? Like, oh, well, the
Right.
oil hauler was there. Boom. Correlation. And that helps build trust in our sensors.
Isn't that great?
It's awesome. I love it.
Boy, I've had 3 good questions. This is a rare podcast. I don't know where this is coming from.
I mean, you have to have me back on.
Oh yeah. No, but I'm going to invite you back for some panels that we have coming up in the bid here. So you passed the test. You're fun, you're knowledgeable, and you got a great product. So it's kind of like, it's really not about the product. It's about what you're trying to do on the way to get to carbon neutral.
It is 100%. Like, we feel that, and I do just want to speak a little bit to kind of the other companies in the space. I mean, there's some incredible technology out there.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of like the airborne stuff that some of these companies are doing. I mean, it is pretty amazing. Right. But they're only there for one moment in time. Right. So they get this incredible data set and they can cover a ton of pads spatially.
Right.
But they're not there 24/7. So it's kind of like we're going to start complementing each other. Maybe down the line, maybe my system alerts, and dispatches a drone that has a much more expensive instrument that can then better visualize the plume. So that, kind of figuring out how these technologies are going to kind of work together, I think is essential for achieving.
I've got a couple of CEOs of big drone companies coming on, so I may have to hook you two together. So that would be kind of a cool.
We can talk all about the FAA and how accommodating they are to drone operations.
I think that the operative word is you hit regulations immediately.
Yes.
Holy smokes, that is not a very good thing. Okay, 2 questions, Bear. What's coming around the corner for your company?
Man, I tell you, like our team is just running with their hair on fire. So we've got, I think 4 or 5 installs coming up here over the next month,
Nice.
all over the country in all of our product lines. So we've got, 4 different product lines with the landfills and the Colorado monitoring, and the continuous methane, and then our DOE work. So we're just building.
Right. Is the supply chain a problem?
Oh yeah, the supply chain is just a mess.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that question up, but
no, and it's another great question, right? Because I get asked that a lot, and it's it could be better. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it just means you have to be better at your management.
But here's our another advantage, right? We own the design of our board. So let's say, for instance, a specific capacitor or something no longer is available. Well, it takes us, and I say us, and I mean our CTO Duncan, who does all the tech heavy lifting. I just get out here and do my little monkey dance, and he does all the lifting. But he can modify the board to work with the available parts, right? So we really have that level of flexibility, and it hasn't really affected us, right? I mean, we've built something like, probably 300 or 400 units at this point, and it's been, I mean, it wasn't exactly easy during COVID, that's for sure. I mean, supply chain management took a lot of our time, but we're getting better, and we've got our boards out to a third-party manufacturer now, so they're kind of handling some of those supply chain issues. So it seems to be getting better, right? I hope that there's not another COVID outbreak in China, which would throw a wrench in everything, but it's improving. I think.
The supply chain is busted, and I think there's some serious problems around, but that's for another podcast. So
we'll get through it. The good news is everyone has to deal with it. So
you bet. All right, one last question, and then this will wrap it up. But what's next for Bear?
I'm trying to just grow this company in the most responsible way I can. So really, my whole life is Earthview. Like, those units out there, like my kids, like I worry about them, through the storm. So it really is just making sure our product fits what our clients are looking for. And then, I do have my first vacation coming up in October, so I'm pretty excited about that too.
Whoa, where are you going there?
I'm going to Hawaii for a friend's wedding. So I'm.
That is not a vacation, Bear. I'm old enough to tell you that friends' weddings are not vacation.
It's a vacation as far as anything I've got in the past 3 years.
Is your wife going with you?
No.
Oh, that's a vacation then. Okay.
Yeah.
I better make sure my wife's not listening.
But yeah, so just working on Earthview and making sure that we're poised to build a successful company that helps this industry produce clean energy.
Well, I love your mission, and Bear, thank you for taking the time today. I just really appreciate you, and we're going to put all of your information in the show notes and have everything available for both of my listeners. So
awesome. Well, I'll expect calls from both of them. And Stu, man, I really appreciate you having me on here. This has been awesome.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate you.